So there's the possibility of this social chaos erupting and just destroying ourselves. And then what will happen?
That out of that, God plans through God's inspiration to raise people up who will live in harmony and love and gentleness with one another and with the creation.
Describe that, because I was reading that to somebody and they said this sounds like something out of a sci-fi novel.
Yeah.
It's something they had never even heard of, never even conceived in their own minds.
Well, what they told me, I had never heard of or considered. If you had asked me before my experience what would the future look like, I would have said Star Wars. High tech. You know, doors that go whoosh, whoosh, when you approach them, right? You don't have to touch them, they go whoosh, whoosh, and you could talk to the computer and the computer would talk back to you. That's what I thought the future was going to be.
Because that's where we're heading, we think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what they were saying was a world of incredible simplicity, living in great harmony with nature, even to the point of us living in harmony, in control of the weather and all the elements.
How? How so?
God created us to be stewards of this planet, caretakers of this planet. And we've done a poor job. And they told me that we have a lot of capacities that have never been released. Our relationship with the animal kingdom and vegetable kingdom and with the whole planet, in time, as we become spiritually more sophisticated and wiser, we'll live in harmony with those systems rather than seeing them as our enemy. Remember when you were a kid, did you have to read Moby Dick? And the whole idea was nature was something to be dominated and killed because nature was like ultimately hostile to us. Completely wrong. We need to be going the other way with nature and learning to live more in harmony with it. And it will live in harmony with us.
And so you have, you describe it as people living very modestly.
Yeah.
And basically they only had enough food to survive and only enough material possessions.
But they could grow food at will. So they didn't need, I mean, they had no anxiety. You know, I never thought of this before, just to agree. They lived the way Jesus and his disciples lived.
Right.
You know,
And
that kind of
spoke
simplicity.
telepathically.
All over the whole world and the whole universe. They could talk to people, intelligent beings all over the whole universe.
And when
People didn't fear death because they knew that death was just a transition to moving on to a higher state. People lived, first of all, they lived to love and nurture and raise the children. Everybody's number one priority was the raising of children. And they made it, Jesus and the angels made it really clear to me that that's what we should be doing. We should make children our number one priority. Secondly, they lived to love and support one another in their intellectual pursuits, their artistic pursuits, their musical pursuits, whatever it is people were interested in. People lived to support one another in that. And people lived in harmony. They said when somebody got out of harmony with the rest of the community, the whole harmony, the whole community cared about that and was involved with trying to bring that person back.
And when they got sick, they would pray them back to health.
There was they eliminated sickness because when someone got sick, they would just heal them.
Now this was in 1985, and you said that they said this would occur in 200 years.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty preposterous, but who am I to argue with God, you know? I mean, I told him, I said, it's ridiculous. I did. Well, after you're around Jesus for a while, you know one of the things you realize? You can say anything you want to. I mean, you don't say ugly things. But you say what's in your heart.
Sure.
And that's what he wants to hear from us. He doesn't want hypocrisy. He doesn't want formality. He doesn't want nonsense. He wants from your heart, from the core of your being. What do you really think? What do you really feel? He understands. He's been around. You know? There's nothing we can do to surprise Jesus.
So what happens after that then? How long does that life last?
I don't know. I don't know. That's not the second coming. That's just a better world, making the world more the kind of place that God created it to be. And I didn't inquire beyond that.
Sort of a heaven on earth?
Well, compared to the world the way it is today, it would be paradise. But
Right.
it's not, because people would be born and raised and have accidents and die. I mean, it's not eternity on earth. It would still be earth, and the same laws of physics would apply. We would just live in a much more sophisticated relationship with our environment. Which means, because our relationship with the environment was so much more sophisticated, it's actually much simpler.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you said the bad things that could happen, for example, to the United States, could happen, but through prayer, through conversion, that could end. And God has sent us guardian angels, or angels.
Right, millions of them.
Millions to help us. Let's talk about that. First of all, what do they look like?
Well, I've seen the guardian angels in many forms, and they can take different forms because, well, first of all, they can appear to be just like a regular person, and you don't know it. And I've had the experience, and I've met many people that had the experience of meeting someone, and they're like, wait a minute, that was impossible. That was an angel. That couldn't, you know, I mean, that it defied the laws of physics. They were here, and then they were, you know what I mean?
Right.
So angels can appear to be like people, but they also, I've seen angels in their full-blown glory, and the room is so bright, it's like you had 1,000,000 candle watts of electric power going on, and they're radiant and beautiful and
you've
full
painted
of
them,
color.
but you can't.
Yeah, it's a failure. I mean, I'm like such a.
But they
so
don't have
inadequate.
angel wings like the little cherubs we
Well,
looked
no,
at.
the wings actually, you know, it actually come from, in the Bible, it talks about that they radiate, and that has come to be translated as wings. But it's actually that they radiant appendages, and that's what they do. Angels give light. They're radiant beings, as opposed to you and I, who are opaque beings and absorb light. They give off light, but it's spiritual light.
And
They're beautiful.
And they're meant for us for what reason?